Hi everyone, welcome to this next episode of TCT Talks. I'm joined here by Rafa, who is our lead AI architect, and I'm Jamie, our AI product manager. And we're going to go through, I think, all things AI, right?
Pretty much.
So what's your role at TCT?
So I'm AI lead architect now in TCT, all things AI.
Yeah, living,
Basically.
sleeping, breathing, eating, all of the rest of it.
Annoying everyone with AI talks.
Of course. What's the biggest thing at the moment that's on your mind when it comes to AI?
How fast we need to update with the technology. I think this is like moving fast. It's moving faster. We used to have like one new model per year. Now we have in 6 months. Probably we are going to have in 3 months, and each one of these new releases are bringing new variables to the table, and it's being like really hard to have like a long-term roadmap given all the advances that are always coming. So this is quite challenging, I would say, so to predict the future.
It's hard, isn't it? I think from a product point of view, so as a product manager, I'm looking at things holistically, right? So obviously we've been through the industrial revolution, right? Not me personally, but as a as a species, we've also been through the boom of the internet, right? For me, this feels like the next era, right? The AI era of what's coming next. It's not a new thing. It's not a new fancy tool. It feels like it's a new era.
The thing with AI is that if we take the fire revolution, it caused a revolution to the prehistoric man, but it had some bounded use cases. Okay, if we take the wheel, again, some bounded use cases, but AI, we're speaking about that we basically invented intelligence. We don't have AGI yet, but it's everything everywhere, you know. So it's very hard for us to cope with use cases, where you can use it, where it's going towards to, and so on and so forth. So that it's the hard level of prediction. I think we are not ready for this. I mean, for the amount of variables that are on the table right now.
Yeah. And for those that are listening that just have no idea, basic terms, what is AI?
Yeah, we are basically trying to reproduce the human brain, now speaking more scientifically, through neural networks. And I think we as human beings, not TCT, we created quite an amazing technology with many applications.
Yeah, 100%. And then, so next layer down, right? So that's AI in general. So that's just basic foundation AI. There's a lot of talk at the moment around an agent or agentic AI. Maybe do you want to just clear up some of those terms as what is an agent and what is agentic AI?
Yeah, there are very interesting analogies for these, but the basic thing is that agent, it's everything that it's working on a bounded space with a certain workflow, and it's a certain set of rules, and it has a limited space.
Yeah.
And when we are speaking about agentic, it's much more into the control. So you take a bit the human out of the loop, and then you put like the agentic there. So agentic, a clear example, Wemo. We assign Wemo with a task, take me from point A to point B, but the control of the path that it's going to take, the route, and if it's going to brake, if it's going to, I don't know, park or whatever, it's Wemo taking control. Of course, there are some bounded rules and so on and so forth, but it's taking the decisions by itself given certain constraints and thresholds and whatever.
Yeah. So the way I've understood it is that you've got an agent is a small piece of code or guardrailed AI, right? That will serve a specific purpose, right? It's a small piece of tightly bounded AI that will help you to achieve a goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then agentic is your next level up from that with some form of automation, some form of um, process or flow or with control still behind it, but it's the level up, right? So if you were to picture it, you've got your foundation AI, you've got your agent, and then you've got your agentic as the next layer, and then there's many more layers to come that we don't even know
Yeah.
about, right?
So, for an example, a good understanding what an agent is like Alexa. Alexa, you can create some rules like light up my lights on a certain time of the day and etc. Um, Lights on, lights off, but it will never decide for you that it's time for you to go and change your lights from bright ones to yellow ones because these will give you more comfort because it's detecting a certain level of stress on you.
Yeah, and that's where it becomes amazing, right?
Yeah.
The possibilities here are endless, and the growth that AI can provide, not just to people I mean, it's a naive example, right, with the light bulb, but it just goes to show that it's applicable in any area.
Yeah, there are many applications now that are quite amazing. We are seeing like many improvements into medicine and into like disease and math, physics, and etc. Because these models are then being trained on these very specific set of knowledge, and they're really thriving and supporting the humans interacting with it to do these advancements.
A quote that I heard the other day was AI is moving faster or as fast as our imagination. Blink and you're behind, right? How mad is that?
Jamie, I mean, that's what I was saying in the opening sentence that we were having. That it's very hard to keep up because there is always an improvement. There is always a new feature, a new model, a new set of data, and etc. And the results that you're getting are better and better and better. So then, what you thought that was not possible yesterday,
Mm.
today is completely feasible. So it's very hard for you to keep up with the where will I go with that?
Yeah. There's so many different use cases, right? I mean, you've got some, I mean, think of any sector, right? Any industry, there's going to be some value in AI, regardless, right, of where you are. And I think it's getting people to think in a way and use their imagination, right? AI needs to be a creative task, right? The whole idea is you've got loads of different capabilities, loads of different things you can do, but it's ultimately still powered by humans, right? It's what can we do? What can we provide? What thought can we provide to trigger AI to do this amazing thing, right? So creativity still needs to be at the hub of it. But when we look at any industry, right, some of the use cases are amazing, right? I mean, you're looking at use cases from, I don't know, content creation is your basic, right? It's what generative AI was made for, right? But looking past that, looking at your marketing, your sales teams, your HR teams, your people that create content and have an output, right? It's how can we get AI in their hands to make their life nicer, right? Their life easier. Then you've got things like your content creation from a like media, right? So you've got image creation, you've got video creation, you've got all these new models that come out from Google recently that create these images unbelievably quickly. And this podcast is going to be out of date in 5 minutes, right? Because who knows what's around the bend. But it's that there's so many niche use cases that we probably don't even know exist, right? And where would you think is a great industry right now for AI?
I think anything that it's computer based, repetitive, mundane, that those tasks that we are eye rolling that we don't want to do because we want like more time to be creative, we want more time to invent and these kind of things because this is still very human.
Mm.
This quintessential thing of invention, it's still very human because we don't have AGI yet.
Yeah.
Okay, So I think AI can help us and support us and be like a very good assistant or a tool to free up your time for you to be more creative.
Yeah. Again, another quote was, if your company or if your business or industry uses electricity, it will value AI, right? And I think anything that we're doing in a digital world right now, or even paper based to some degree, right? It's how can we use AI? And I think from my perspective, I've always thought and tried to speak to customers and people saying, think about the smallest little nugget of something that's going to even save you a minute a day. Let's get people comfortable with that. Let's start with there. Let's start with the easy wins that nobody likes doing. Let's work with that, right? Let's build something really small that has very bespoke, probably an agent, sort of. That's a great case for an agent or just regular Gen AI, that will build out this very specific use case for a very small task and work your way up, right? Start small, start granular, then build and build and build until you're at the 10-minute tasks, then the hour tasks. And then you've got whole chunks of your day that are then free to do whatever you think is best, right? So that could be thinking higher level.
I love AI. I hate to do documentation. I hate to
Another
do
great use case.
documentation. It's very painful for me. AI just freed up my table on this sense. I don't have to struggle anymore. It was like really painful. I don't like to do documentation, and it's doing for me.
Yeah.
And I think I was watching Simon Sinek speech, and he was speaking about a very good kind of matrix for you to decide if the ROI of the agent is good for you or not. So he's saying if it cuts you a lot of time and it's easy for you to check the work, this is a very good use case. And I think this is very interesting because I think we are so lost in the opportunities now, what it's a good use case and what it's not, that this kind of matrix, it's very cool. So for an example, documentation. I can do a whole bunch of code, but basically the AI does the documentation or does the code for you, and then that's exactly it. So it was a high throughput for me. It saved me a lot of time, and for me, it was a very small time for me to validate that work. I think this is a very good use case. As we were discussing yesterday during dinner, a book, it's different because it can write for you a book, hypothetically speaking, in an hour, let's say like this, but then you're going to spend like the next 3 or 4 days reading that book to validate and doing corrections and so on and so forth. This is not yet a good use case.
Yeah. And it changes the impact of that person. And I think it's looking at using AI on an individual basis. And I think that's where it's important. There's no point generalizing. Everybody then needs to use AI for this current use case because it's personal, right? The workforce is super important, especially to us as a company. And it's how can we free up time on an individual basis for people to focus on something that they would like to do more? And it's where do you resource people? Where do you put people? There's always more to do, right? Every company, there's always never enough resource. All right, I haven't heard of a single company that says we're happy with what we've got right now. It's perfect. Everyone needs more. Everyone wants more. Everyone wants faster. Everyone wants this. Using AI ultimately, if you treat it in the truest sense, is a personal assistant, right? It's a assistant. And how would you treat it like it was a colleague, for example, right? An extra power to your workforce. This is a completely new way of thinking. And considering it in that lens just means that you've got a new whole free workforce. And I do free because obviously you've got to pay a little bit for it, but free workforce that's available 24/7, right? How do you best use that free unlimited workforce that can help you 24/7? And when you phrase it like that, it can shift the perception.
You need to visualize the opportunity here that you can do more without stressing too much your workforce. It's not like now I'm going to occupy 8 hours of the day of these people, but you can essentially deliver more with less. And I think this is important. And of course, there are bad papers saying you're going to lose your job and blah blah blah. But there are awesome papers speaking how people were being more productive
Mm.
and delivering more quality with AI simply because they're not burnt out.
So we were talking about ethics, right? And
Hmm.
what do you think is really important from an ethics point of view? Because I know you mentioned that a couple of times.
This is a very broad topic. I think there are many discussions today about the responsible use of AI because it's a very powerful tool, and it's, you know, about your moral and ethics to use it for the right purpose. I think, and that's why I know sounds repetitive, it sounds like a jargon and everything, but a human always need to be in the loop, you know? And it's like the human being, the why we are doing that, that it's so important, and that's why AI so far cannot substitute us. And I think this why it's very important. And I think here in TCT we are having like the right set of whys that we want to deliver this. And I think it's about care and for their work to be less massive and less, mundane tasks and etc. So then they can use their time to be more creative and enjoy more their work day.
Yeah,
I would say
absolutely.
so.
And I think is as we've been encouraging as well is making sure that people are using AI as that personal assistant, right? They're using it as a companion, right? They're using it politely, right? And we've had a whole conversation about this. Maybe we can break into this in a minute about please and thank you, right? Of on one side of it for please and thank you, if should someone say please and thank you in their prompt, one argument is no, because it's bad for the environment, i.e., it's taking up more energy, it's using more electricity, it's costing us more money, right? Versus yes, because when a psychologist talks about it, right, they might look at it from the angle of you're treating it as if it were a colleague, you're treating it as if it were a personal assistant, you're working with it, and you're getting better outcomes and you're having right habits, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
learning and brain, like keeping the brain function going, you don't just want to use AI, lift it, shift it, pass it on. You want to lift it. You want to take it, make it into your own, make sure that it still resonates with your voice, your tone, and then you can pass it on, right? And it's making sure that you're learning from AI, you're adapting to AI, and you're not just taking it for what it says and you're passing it on, right? The whole purpose is you need to keep your brain ticking. You need to make sure that your cognitive load is still up to scratch. You don't want to lose skills because you're just using AI to do everything. You want to make sure you're building your skills, you're enhancing your
Mm-hmm.
skills, and you're using AI to learn. And I think it's super important that our people and everybody who uses AI is using AI to learn and to better themselves rather than as a substitute for themselves.
Yeah, and I think that it's one of the biggest challenges of the market today because the change management now it's not a simple technical change management that let's just clean the data, let's contextualize the data, that it's one of the technical challenges, let's clean the process, let's make the process more clear. But I think one of the challenges of the change management now it's exactly on this cultural part of okay, now you have free time, what you're going to do with that, but not only from the workforce perspective, also from the employer perspective, what do you want your people to do with that free time, so I think change management now it's getting new dimensions, I would say, and it cannot be like just as the science before,
Mm.
and it needs to be much more humanized and like really dig down to the human level to promote like the right change on that.
100%. And I think it's all about using it for the right use cases, right? And you can use AI however you feel comfortable with, right? And everyone will have different thresholds on that. And it's just about building that bit by bit. And that's why I say start small, then grow and build and build and build, right? And it's you start with a really simple prompt and you might go back and forth to work out, okay, what's the better prompt, right? A great tip is using AI as its own prompter, right? Say, create a prompt to do this. Great. Now it spits out a prompt at me. Brilliant. It's got a lot more detail. Then I can then look at that detail and go, do I agree with this? Do I agree with this? Do I agree with this? Yes, great. Now let's send back the prompt that it's just given me to get a better answer. And you're doing it in less turns, less moves, better for the environment, better for cost management, all of that sort of stuff. As you become better with your prompt, you're going to get obviously better answers. You're going to get more economy friendly results ultimately as well. Not for the economy, but also the environment.
Yeah, I mean, the environmental question, maybe AI can help us to solve
True.
that in the future. Yes, on the current state of the technology, um, there is so much need for compute, given the current state of the transformers and everything. We were having a masterclass today about
Yeah.
that, and explaining the exponential problem that is and how much energy is needed and etc. I think this is one of the challenges on the industry, on the sense of there is a bigger picture that probably we will need AI to help us to solve that. But there is another one that I think we have a lot of influence on that, that it's how we can deliver the best breed of intelligence without burning too much tokens.
Mm.
And I think this is the sweet spot that everyone, it's the Eldorado, everyone is searching for that. And I think we are being quite happy on this journey lately. And I think this is the case even to get better accuracy that,
Mm.
I mean, this is another challenge. And we like really need to flip our minds because we are coming from a very old software kind of school that everything is stateless, everything is determined, and etc. And we really need to deal with a certain level of uncertainty now.
It's being comfortable with the uncomfortable, isn't it? Ultimately. And
Exactly.
from a change management point of view as well, it's really interesting because looking at adoption, looking at how people are using it, one of the best use cases I've seen recently actually is for it to challenge your point of view, right? So when you put in a prompt, right, it could be a human related problem, it could be a technical problem. It's saying, how else could I do this? Or from a perspective of X person, or from a perspective of this person with this profession, right? Challenge me, right, with this idea. And it comes up with the best things, right? To try
Yeah.
and persuade you in other ways. And I think if you use it in, that's a really nice ethical way of doing it to some degree of how can you reshape my view? How can you train me to be a better person? And getting AI to help facilitate that learning. Again, ask the right questions, you're going to get good stuff back out, right? And it's challenge my view, challenge my perspective, use it to push me. I don't want to push it, I want it to push me. And getting it to help shape how I can further develop myself as well is quite an interesting prospect.
Yeah, but this is very funny because I think this is a very cool mindset, but people were having like models like pets now, kind
Mm,
of. So, for an example, you're coming from 4.0 OpenAI, that it was a very syncopatic type of very yes man and always agreeing and you are always the best, and it was feeding people's
yeah.
ego. In certain ways, it's also complicated, especially when you're asking about health things and etc. And GPT-5, it's not that syncopatic.
Mm,
It's a bit more hard truth type of. People were not liking it because they're missing that old chatty friend and etc.
mm,
And it's interesting to see how many kind of variations and interactions it's creating. So I think the adoption part, it's kind of also evolving, and
mm,
I think it's a study by itself how people are interacting with it and how they're adopting it on their life basis, I would say so. So it's an interesting thing. I think adoption, it's like change management.
Yeah.
I think we are living very exciting times to see things changing. The old status quo of software is like changing fast.
It's such an interesting place to be because I mean, if everything, with everything we're doing, and we can see how we're developing software that will take AI hopefully to the next level. I think it's when you think of the software and you think of things just as software, I think it's quite a narrow mindset, right? We're thinking of things as AI being a transformation, right? It's a new thing that people are going to need to welcome into their company, into their culture, into their business, from the foundations, the culture, and all the nice fancy features on top, right? It's how do we get people to use and adopt and feel those features and resonate with them, right? It's seeing AI through all parts of the business that's got a hook for each one of those personas. I mean, it's amazing. And I think the core fundamental for me is making sure that people, that AI doesn't replace your IQ. It will enhance it, right?
Yeah.
And it will build on it. And I think that's a really important message that I try and get across anyway, is making sure that you're not sucking up to AI, right? You're not gonna do everything it says, and you're not gonna follow it word for word, because that's not the purpose of it, right? It's to challenge your point of view, and it's for you to be the decision maker in whether it's right or wrong, whether you're gonna go with it, whether you're gonna tweak it, whether you're gonna adapt it and evolve it, and then what you're gonna do with it afterwards.
It's like basically your sparring companion
Yeah,
that you can, bounce back and forth ideas and ask for opinion and certain decisions and etc. So it's a very interesting paper that was released a long time ago. I'm not going to remember the name of the paper. How people were using ChatGPT on their kind of age. So we are going to see people from kind of 50 plus or 60 plus using it more as an extended Google, where we are going to see like the youngsters using it like almost like an operational system. So they're going to bounce back there. Every single decision that they're going to take, they're going to feed the context there and etc. And then it's going to ask an opinion. I'm thinking about doing this. What are the possibilities? What do you think? And so on and so forth. So it's again, it's very interesting to see these many different types of interaction. So, for an example, for me, I'm very curious. I have this curious mind. And for me, ChatGPT is my curiosity companion. What is that? How that work? And etc. So, those things that you were finding in Google later on, and it was a massive paper and you were not understanding. Now you can simply explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old toddler.
Yeah,
Please do analogies and everything, and it helps to satiate my curiosity.
yeah,
This is one of the use cases. So, and these, I think, looping back to the human, and I think this is another sweet spot for use cases. It's to understand for what and why people are using that. And then you can start extracting these use cases that are going to facilitate their life.
yeah. There's so many like key skills with AI, isn't it? That you've got use case identification, right? Being a really clear, what can I use it for? Tech fluency, right? Knowing enough, being AI literate enough to be able to speak about it, to speak to it. And that leads on to prompt engineering, right? Making sure that you're asking the right questions at the right time. You're knowing what's economy friendly, right? You know what's going to help you with the money. And you've got the output discernment, right? What's correct? What's going to give me the right value? What is the correct answer? Ultimately, is what that's asking for. And I think put all those 4 skills together, and you've got a really nice, well-rounded person that understands AI. And I think if I had to boil it down, those would be my 4 key pieces that people should be aware of, and where to look next, I guess. So as we're rounding up then, so I think obviously there'll be people watching this that are completely non-tech focused, right? We're really lucky to have a Rafa, right, at TCT, but most companies don't. And I think it's clear to say that you don't need to be tech focused in order to use AI and adopt AI, right? You can have a dabble, right? It's relatively low risk, right? There's no harm in trying, right? The curve there to jump on that bandwagon and have a go, very, very low. So I think the first advice from my side is just have a go, right? And have a play. But obviously there'll be people watching as well that have been dedicated with, can you find out and help the company? What should we be doing with AI, right? And so what would your kind of key piece of advice be to those people that are listening that want to take AI to the next level at their company? What would you say?
Every journey starts with the first step, and it doesn't need to be a big one. It doesn't need to be a jump. It's just a small step. So I think it's a journey. Start small, go developing, and etc. You don't need to have a digital twin as a first use case. Okay. Start small, take like the very mundane tasks, very small, start automating, and then you're going to get a better feeling where you should go with it. Every journey is going to be very particular. Your reasons, your whys, your hows, and what. And I just say start small.
100%. Okay, brilliant. Thanks so much, Rafa. Appreciate your time. It's been good fun. I've learned a lot.
Thank you.
It's always a pleasure chatting to you.
Yeah.